Joe Powell,
Present.
Matty Coble,
Here.
Ray Cruz,
Here.
Scott Boris,
Here.
Dave Richard.
Here.
Thank you.
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on May 28th, 2014. Any questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Henry Champion,
Yay.
Joe Powell,
Yes.
Matty Coble,
Yes.
Ray Cruz,
Yes.
Scott Boris,
Yes.
Dave Richard.
Yes.
We have no consent items.
Review of financial reports and list of bills.
The Housing Authority for the month of May had a $95,000 net loss. Year to date, combined with the really good month that we had for April, we have about $29,000 net profit. When you look at it programmatically, the public housing program had a $5,000 net loss for the month and a $157,000 net profit for the year. The Section 8 program had a around $25,000 or so net profit and a $54,000 net profit year to date. The reason for the loss is that we have obviously a bi-weekly pay cycle, so there are 2 months, May and November each year, that have a third payroll. Our payrolls are approximately $75,000 when you include salaries and taxes included together. So that's roughly 80% of that loss there. The other, if you notice in the utilities area, the water was about $10,000 over budget. The remainder is just, we have just been a little.
Did you say the salaries were?
$75,000 per payroll. So we'll see the same thing happen in November. There'll be a third payroll. It'll probably push that month into a loss as well. Again, we had some utilities issues which we're looking at. Last month it was gas. It was over budget. This month it's the water. We're actually in the middle of a utilities audit. So once we get the results of that, which should be in about 30 days or so, we'll have a better picture of what's causing the overages. It may just be that we budgeted it wrong and we need to reallocate the budget, but we do want to find out both in the long term and short term what we can do to address those challenges. Also, there are a few items. If you look in the revenues, we have been kind of looking over our revenue, our rent collections. Every month on the report, obviously we have to book what is owed to us. So there's a difference sometimes between what is owed and what is actually collected. So we are looking at what lately we've had a lower collections rate than we'd like to have. Traditionally, we collect about 90%. Lately, it's been around 85%. So we're looking at the reasons into that, and also you'll start to notice an uptick in some of the evictions. So those are related largely to rent, as far as trying to make sure that we are collecting all the dollars owed to us. Are there any questions on financials?
What's in the AMP2 capital funds proceeds maintenance, where the budget's 51,000, collecting 13,500?
That's basically, that account is a reimbursement account. So for AMP2, basically we only spent 13.5, so we only allowed to collect 13.5. And it just also depends on this particular time period. We haven't done a lot of the work that we experienced there. So for example, if we budgeted $100,000 for the year and we didn't plan to do the work until October, then all of a sudden in the month of October you'll see the whole $100,000 show up.
Keith, on that utility bill,
Mm-hmm.
you said that there's a possibility that you budgeted wrong on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming we have numbers that go back
Yes.
for a handful of years.
Yes.
So how could that have happened?
Well, it could have been one of two things. One, when we looked at our historical data, it just isn't tied to what's currently happening. For example, we may simply have higher water usage since we have started to go to individual meters, or if we have, for example, expected to have more of our energy efficient furnaces in, and we haven't gotten to that point yet. So maybe the gas costs are higher than we expected for that reason. So possibly the current data is just different from what we historically have had happen. Also, if you recall, this winter has just been much different, than what we've had, and the summer sometimes is a little different as well. So one, it could have been just a difference between our historical data and what's currently happening, and it may have just been, we do try to do a kind of across the board inflationary increase of 5%. That may be actually 7% this year, and we'll have to dig into what that is and get an answer out to everybody.
Okay.
So we're like 2 months into the fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay. So are some of these things going to even out? Because
Yes, a lot of them will. Yeah, they're the first 2 months. I mean, normally at this point in time, last year we had a $200,000 net loss. What typically happens, this part of the year is very early. It's a little too early for a lot of these things to have happened yet. So they will flesh themselves out over the next probably about 3 months or so.
Okay. Cause it looks like in administration though, that I just am confused, cause there's like 0 budgeted amounts, but there's amounts going into that.
That's because all those amounts get spread out to the AMPS, to the Public Housing Section 8 program. So we don't budget for that because we know those are gonna get reallocated. Any other questions? Are there any questions on the list of bills?
I had asked before, and this is kind of similar to what Dave's concern was. Having our budgets happen like in the middle of the year instead of it being on a fiscal year is a lot of times confusing. And I don't remember what you said. Is it possible for us to go to that, or do we have to keep it the way it is?
To have the fiscal year run with the calendar year?
Right.
No, it's absolutely possible. We would need to do, it would be a multi-step process. One, the board would need to, there would need to be a resolution to make that change. We would have effectively a partial year. We would close the books in December of this year, which would not be a full fiscal year. We would have those books audited. Then we would also have to close the books again for the remaining period. So we would have to close.
So it costs us more
It
money.
costs more.
to do
Yeah, it's 2 audits.
Yes.
basically.
I remember that,
Yeah.
okay.
And I'm pretty sure that's why you told us not to do it.
Yeah, I remember now, thank you.
Any other questions?
Who's doing the audit for the utilities?
It's got a firm called CTI. They're out of Houston.
Monday, staff reports?
So, as we all know, this will be the last meeting that we hold in this very special room. Starting next month, we will be holding the board meeting in our new location. For those of you who hadn't had an opportunity to go by, I'm actually going to send out some, we were going to put them up on the screen, but I didn't get a chance to get it all together. I'll send out a few of the pictures just showing some of the really dramatic changes that have been made to the building. The boardroom is phenomenal. I saw they were bringing in the TVs today, so we're excited about that. But the entire space is phenomenal, and you know the contractors, Jimmy's crew, Carlos have done an excellent job of managing that and bringing that to a reality. So we're really excited to open that up next month and get everybody in and get a chance to see that. So everybody can take a little piece of the room with you if you want to on the way out. We won't tell anybody. The other item, Brenshaw Development, they have now purchased all 40 of the units for our scattered site project, which means the next step for us is a scary one. We have to build our waiting list for those units, which requires that we open up our waiting list. So that we will be doing. They go to permanent financing in August, we think they're going to get that. They are going to start the rehab process. Their units will start coming online probably in late fall. So we have to have people ready to move into those units by that time. So we'll be looking to, around the time that they're doing permanent financing, to start opening up our waiting list again, so that we can be, have that list built up so that they can have people to move in, and we'll get all of those units counted towards our HUD requirements as well. And last but not least, we have Miss Adrienne Holloway over here, who is with our interns, who are all excellent interns. We've been very, very impressed by the students that we've been able to bring in. If you all recall, when we did the strategic plan, one of the bigger things we were going to do this year was have our first ever internship class, and we have done that. Ms. Holloway has been phenomenal in getting us good students, and then also helping to manage that project. And we are, I consistently hear from the directors, we are very impressed with the individuals we have. I'm actually going to allow Ms. Holloway to introduce them.
Hi, again, I'm Dr. Holloway. I'm with DePaul University, but I had the fortunate pleasure of designing this program for the Aurora Housing Authority. And I would like to say we had a phenomenal response to the call for interns. So it was very difficult for me to select who we actually were able to bring on board. We have 3 interns here today, and they represent a variety of different institutions in the Midwest area. We have Sheldon, who is with Kansas State. We have Logan, who's with UIUC, and we have Alex, who's with DePaul University, and they have various different majors as well. If you recall, the design of the program is allowing the interns to rotate through 4 different divisions of the Housing Authority. So it gives them the opportunity to not only become very familiar with how diverse the operations of the housing authority is, but also gives them an opportunity to see how their respective degree programs align with different elements of the housing authority, with the prospect of them maybe considering this field as a field, a career field for them in the future, and or looking at housing authority as a vehicle or a partner that they might be able to consider entering into a partnership with when they do enter into their field. So they're here until the second week of August, rotating through the housing authority, and they may sit in at another board meeting before the end of their program. So thank you for the opportunity to bring the students here to be exposed to the work that you've observed or overseen.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
I'll say something on that. You know, I went down to New Orleans to the convention, and, one thing that really stood out to me was that, I think they were from Virginia Housing Authority, were given scholarships,
Mhm.
gave a scholarship. And the young lady gave a very good testimony, and I wanted to bring that back. She was a resident of the Housing Authority, and the amount she got from FADA
Yes.
was $12,050 or $12,500. And I thought it was impressive. She read her essay. It was kind of touching, so I wanted to bring that back to the
No, absolutely, absolutely. And there are, FADA and a lot of the other industry groups. I know, Georgia's state industry group. They do an annual conference, and at that conference, they award scholarships. One of the things we would need to do in order to do that is to first of all get residents. They have to fill out all the application materials, and that's something that I think I know from the resident side, Kim certainly could oversee and could do. She has, I think, a good relationship, and also we can reach out to a lot of community partners too to kind of get that information out as well. And then on the other side, I have seen a lot of agencies will work with FADA, work with NARO, to also provide scholarships to college students as well. And those are two definite things that we can look to start doing in the future as well. Are there any questions for me?
I had a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Can you circulate the final list of the 40
Yes.
properties? And then it says, the grand opening says mid-June, is that?
I'm sorry, it should be mid-July typo.
Okay, that's all right. That's what I was hoping the answer was.
Did we ever get a chance to go back and survey, people that were displaced by Jericho Circle?
We started that process,
Okay.
yes, we did. We actually sent out letters to everybody, and they're getting us that information back now. I think we've given them 45 days or 60 days to get that information back.
Mhm.
So once we have that back, that'll be the first group of names that go on that waiting list, yes, absolutely.
Great, great.
Maddie and I don't know if this is the right time to bring this up, but Maddie and I met earlier today. We had talked about working on the evaluation form and everything. Do you want to talk about that later on in the meeting, or can I just?
Okay.
Okay, so basically we're kind of still in the information gathering phase of that, but what we've been looking at and what we've seen from the information that we've gotten from other agencies, and then just kind of a white paper on evaluation of executive directors, is that it should really be it has a component of looking backwards to evaluate the last year, but also should have a large component of looking forward, and so using the goals, so the strategic plan that we have, the goals that Keith has personally for himself for the year, and have measurable things so that we can have those in the evaluation, so that everybody's on the same page, so that we know and Keith knows exactly what's expected for the year, and that there are some measurable goals that we can go back and look at. So using some of those documents, like the job description, different examples that we have of evaluations, the goals that Keith has, the 5-year plan and the annual plan. So we're gathering up all of those this month. We'll be looking at those, and then really coming up with some specific examples of those that were given to us, but if there's anything that you guys wanna see, specifically in an evaluation of Keith for, as we're going through this process, or of any, executive director, if you could get those to Maddie and I, and then we'll try to incorporate those into what we're doing. And then, so if we could have those, within the next few weeks, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Maria is enjoying a vacation in Mexico right now, so we tried to get her to call in, but she refused to do it, so I don't know.
We can call her.
So if you have any questions on her report, which she did finish before she left, let me know and we can answer those. If not, I'll turn it over to Sue for her report.
Sorry, talked about it earlier, but the 178 notices for rent the past 14 days. And you talked about kind of that seemed like an unusually high number.
It is. It was not to advertise what we're doing, but basically it's a scare tactic to, when we notice that, we're not collecting the rent, and one of the first things we say is, okay, who owes us rent? And we send everybody a notice. It's okay, listen, you need to get that rent paid so that, people are aware that we are paying attention and we are going to work harder to collect those dollars. We don't expect by any means to be evicting anywhere near that number of people. Typically, just depending on the time, after the 8th of the month, payments due. If we sent everybody a notice we hadn't paid by the 8th, we could easily send 300 notices out a month. Usually we don't send those notices, but because of the situation we find ourselves in, we actually push that forward because we do want to make the point that rent is due and people need to make those payments. But it's largely, like I said, I would be surprised if we evict 15 people this month. But it's really just an effort to remind people that there is a due date and we expect to, that the rent be paid on that date. Are there any other questions for Maria, who's not here? If not, Sue.
Okay, for the month of May, for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, we had 68 recertifications in progress. We completed 90 annual reexaminations, 49 interim rent adjustments. We reissued 16 to families who were moving. We had 5 families that ported into Aurora from other housing authorities. We moved out 4 families to other housing authorities. We had 5 move-ins, lease-ups, new lease-ups, which were port-ins and tenants moving from one unit here to another when their lease ended. We had 10 initial move-in inspections, 74 annual unit inspections, 25 re-inspections, 1 special inspection, which was a 24-hour carbon monoxide violation. We had 10 terminations. 4 families were absorbed by other housing authorities, 4 violated family obligations, 1 voucher expired, and 1 was a voluntary. We had 2 repay agreements signed, one for $1,362, one for $318. No units were abated, and right now we have 815 vouchers leased.
So, the 40 new vouchers for next year, for the new, so our total number of vouchers doesn't change, 893 stays the same, is the way I understood it. And then we'll have 40 more units, and so that 815 number might bump up, but it's not gonna bump up 40 units, because ultimately there's gonna be some range
Right.
that we stay in, is that how
Yes.
I'm understanding it?
Exactly, yeah. The goal, because HUD has made it a point, and not anything bad on HUD, it's just the money they were given. They obviously are basically giving us roughly 80% of our funding, somewhere in the 80s percentile of the funding that we're eligible for. We're trying to live in that balance, and as long as we live within that balance, we're safe because we have enough funds to pay out. They're safe because they're happy because we've leased up to the amount of money they're giving us. So we will see a increase in that number, but it won't go to 855. It'll be probably 825, 835, because also as we have people come off, we'll manage that accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
We, have talked about like reaching out to landlords and things like that. Do we have anything on the schedule for that, or what's?
I haven't planned, I have thought about it. That's as far as I've got.
We have discussed it internally. It's just one of those things we have, we wanna make sure we do it right and make sure we get it out. We got promotions and marketing has been a big thing we've been doing a lot more of, we're trying to plan more for. And with our new website rolling out, we wanna get that there first, because the landlord login information is there. There's a lot of information that we wanna have accessible before we try and tell people, hey, we can do certain things, look here, but we have a centralized location of information for people. But we do wanna continue and do a lot more of that outreach. I know you're expecting.
And we
so.
do have the website now too, with the landlord portal, where they can go in and get information, and they do contact me a lot by phone, and so we do have some contact.
Okay, great, thanks.
Is there any other?
Questions? Yeah?
Me? I'm on.
Yes, sir.
Next week is our hard inspection, so, we're looking pretty good. I think we'll do well. Got the contractors out there right now, just, sprucing up and touching up some, things. Unfortunately, some of the work that we have to kinda wait till the last minute, because, things tend to disappear like backsplashes and stuff like that, for the gutters and stuff like that. If we put them out too soon, they tend to be frisbee sometimes, so. But, it's looking really good. We're also, started city inspections. The city's been inspecting some of our units, so we get, so it actually works out really well, because, kills two birds with one stone.
Are you talking about the housing choice voucher properties, or are you talking about, like public
Ours
housing?
that we actually own. And, every year the city does inspect all our sites, they inspect our sites, and they also inspect all our scattered sites also, so.
So they go inside the units
Yes.
and look inside there and everything?
They do a total inside and interior.
City does that for all rental units though.
Yeah.
Well, right, but I'm just,
Well-
we pay them to do that too?
No, we don't. We doesn't cost us anything. That's one of their responsibilities. One of the interesting things, though, we are not legally required to adhere to those. You know, we don't have to let the city inspect them because we have the
Just
federal
seems weird
inspection.
that this, I mean,
Well, one of the things, and I know it's gone on longer than I've been here, but one of the things, you know, I mentioned to, I think the gentleman's name was Jim. Yes, I mentioned to Jim that we welcome that, because it helps to alleviate concerns. You know, if people say, well, you know, we're not, you know, required to do certain things, but we welcome that, and we're more than happy to work with the city on the matters that make our units meet their requirements as well.
there's a registration fee for like normal, like for rental property, if I have a rental property in Aurora, do we pay the city a registration fee?
Don't tell them that, though, 'cause the guy sitting over there.
I think most of the inspection though favors the tenants though, don't you think? I mean, it's usually stuff that the building needs to be.
Well,
Really
but I
relaxed.
guess my feeling is we should be on top of our own units, that, I guess my main thing is that we weren't like paying the city to
Yeah.
inspect our properties, cause that would seem
Yeah.
crazy, but, and that, you know, we have a whole crew and it's our job as an organization to stay on top of the conditions and things like that, so we're doing our own inspections of properties yearly and, you know, it seems like it was
Redundant.
doubling, yeah, it was redundant. If it's not,
Yeah,
not
actually, they're
costing
actually
us anything, I
pleasantly
don't mind.
surprised, because they're actually, I don't go with them most of the time. I have one of the maintenance guys go with them, but, always had a good rapport and stuff like that, and they're very surprised that, they said, our units are actually better than most of them that they have to deal with. And we do, because, you know, you know, anytime a new person moves in or something, I always try to introduce myself to the neighbors on both sides to let them know if there's any problems, any issues or anything, to call me. And they will call me periodically on certain things, you know. Some stuff are a little trivial, but I still go investigate it and stuff. And so, I mean, we try to keep a good rapport in the neighborhood and stuff like that. So far, you know, things have been working really well. And if you drive at any of our sites, you have a hard time picking up which one was ours. Actually, we blend in very well, you know, with the landscaping, you know, the painting and stuff like that. We try to, like I said, to be uniform with the rest of the neighborhood. Yeah, part of that also with with our HUD inspections and city inspections, we did some more landscaping. You know, we also had some trees removed. In some instances, we'll probably replace a few. We actually had over at Eastwood, over on Beckwith and Grove Street, they are supposed to put their own, they have stickers that we give them to put out their garbage. Over in the other Northeast Drive, there's dumpster corrals, so in order for them to put out the garbage, sometimes it looks a little unsightly and stuff, so we decided to build some corrals to make it look a lot nicer and stuff, like, so when you drive through the neighborhood, you don't see anything, they're behind the corral, so it looks really good. So we, as far as over at Indian Trail, we had this issue back in the winter time where we had to remove 2 electrical meters. We were able to temporarily give them electric, but every time we scheduled, that's when the temperature dropped and stuff like that, so they decided, the ComEd decided to wait till warmer weather to do it. We're basically at the back in ComEd, when they say, you know, they can schedule, that's when we go out. Also, fire department usually does their, you know, annual checks and stuff, and periodically they'll go in units and stuff like that. They did notice that some of the CO detectors were outdated, so we're replacing a lot of CO detectors. So see on the inventory, that's what. Every year I meet with our insurance agent Arma, and he basically comes out and we discuss all our losses and any ideas or suggestions they may do that we can do to improve it. Then we basically just drive the sites, you know, and he'll make suggestions, and he'll actually go to some of our scattered sites and kind of look and see if there's any. There again, he was very impressed. He didn't really have much to say other than be careful, you know. Yeah, because other than our fire that we had last year, we had very little losses. And then over at Maple Terrace on the 2nd floor where the fire is, we were able to get some of our residents on the one wing, but we're still waiting for material to finish up the rest of the units. About it.
Are there any questions for Jen?
How many apartments, you said other apartments, but how many,
Excuse me?
how many apartments need to be finished?
I want to say probably maybe about 10 of them.
10?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for, Jim?
Nope.
New business?
We have none.
Dave? Bruce?
I'm good, Chairman.
I got one. Morris? Yeah. Matty? Okay. Other comments?
Well, it's not on the agenda. We typically ask that they, ask the individuals who wish to speak, ask to be added to the agenda. That was the new procedure. When we can speak with Mr. Reed after the meeting if you'd like to.
Okay. Thank you. There's no other business coming before this board. I would like to thank Dave and Maddie for taking on their responsibility of coming up with their evaluation. I appreciate it, because you know, we went through this last year and it was like a little challenge, but I'm quite sure you guys will make it easy this year. So thank you.
Can we add?
We have people to blame now.
Can we add a line item on there for, like, you know, dresses nicely or something?
Alex
Can we get that?
Paul.
Oh, that okay. Well, that would work. Can we do that? Yeah, we just add that on there.
That's right. So you want the board to stay?
No, I can speak with Mr. Reed
Okay,
after.
all right.
We need a motion. So.
I motion, it'll be adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I see that from the front.
I don't know what that is. It came from that month. I didn't get
It's on the video.
Are we gonna have a new Form then?
doing,
Remember like last year, our form,